Welcome to the Kitsap Matters podcast. In each episode, we discuss the people, places, and things that make Kitsap County unique, covering local entertainment, restaurants, business, government, and anything else we find interesting, troubling, or just plain amusing. A brief disclosure, this is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation. Hi, welcome to the Kitsap Matters podcast. I'm Kevin Campbell, and I'm excited today to have third-generation entrepreneur Beth Wolfe with me on the show. Beth is a master life consultant, chief creator, and vision alchemist. Beth, thanks for joining me today.
You're so welcome. Fun to come hang out with you guys.
Right?
Yeah.
So, as we mentioned at the start of every show, you're probably tired of hearing it by now, but if you're familiar with Peaks Financial, you've probably heard of our SAIL formula. The SAIL formula is the system that we use to manage the financial planning process for our clients. It's all about the key components of our planning philosophy. So in the name SAIL formula, the word formula, in the first four letters of the word formula, F-O-R-M, represents something to us. It represents family, occupation, recreation, and money. It's all about what matters most and about the things that we can control. So what's fun about our planning approach in that format is that it provides a great outline for interviews like this. So today we're diving into Beth's story and what matters to her. So again, Beth, thanks for being here. Let's jump right into it. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
Always fun to share with people and hang out with everybody.
Right? Yeah, so this ought to be fun. And you were here the other day to help me actually test our equipment, right? Which is perfect timing.
It was, yeah.
Beth happened to stop by right as we were running a test on our podcast. I'm like, Beth, pull up a chair, sit here and talk to me for a sec so we can test our audio. So welcome to the show. So the Kitsap Matters podcast is about the people, places, and things in Kitsap County that make it unique, cool, fun, interesting stories, or things that I just find amusing.
I like that last part.
Yeah. I can be kind of whimsical about it. So Beth, start off with just tell us a little bit about you. Like, tell us about the origin story of Beth Wolfe.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a little newer to Kitsap County. How many years you been here now?
Since 2016.
Yeah.
So 8 years now.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I was born and raised here.
Right.
My grandparents came here and they started a donut shop, Milt's Donuts, in downtown Bremerton, and it was probably the competition for Slice.
Right.
You know,
I was going to say, when you first said that, I was like, Slice?
Yeah. No, they delivered donuts to all the bases and everything, and when I was a little kid, I would deliver donuts with my dad.
Awesome.
And so grew up making a lot of bakery stuff with my grandmother. She still worked there, and then my parents opened up 2 major businesses, and they're entrepreneurs here in Kitsap County, and so Kitsap County's been really good to me. I love it here. It's not only beautiful, but there's a lot of cool people here too.
It is. It's a pretty amazing place to live. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Shh. Yeah. Kitsap is a pretty magical place.
It's definitely grown over the years. I mean, where we see some of the malls that are in Silverdale, those were all cow fields as I was growing up, and Wagaway didn't even exist, and but there's been some really cool developments. I think it's great that we're growing in a thriving community.
Now, obviously, I don't know what it was like back in the old days, but to me, it still has that small town feel. At least a lot of it does.
Yeah.
Paulsbo definitely has the small town feel. Mm-hmm. You're right. The big box areas of Silverdale do not, but there's still a lot of the county that definitely has a lot of small town feel.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fun. Yeah. And pretty cool, and very much has their own personalities. Each town has kind of its own personality.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, if you go to Port Orchard, there's a different flavor there, and a little bit flavor in Bremerton. Bremerton's gone through quite a bit of transitions, that's for sure, over the years. It used to be the epicenter of Kitsap County.
Right.
And now it's not so much, They're bringing some things back there, but the epicenter is more more kind of the central part of Kitsap.
Yeah.
Where most stuff is.
But it's a wonderful place. Wonderful place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, let's talk about occupation here for a sec. So, tell me a little bit about what you do. I know you and I have had this conversation before, but for all of our podcast people, tell me, because I introduced you earlier as a, what did I say? Master life consultant, chief creator, and vision alchemist.
Yeah, I know. Aren't those fun?
That's a lot. It is fun. It's cool.
I
kind of feel like we're going to blow something up, though.
Yeah, we could. Well, they're just really fun descriptive terms of what I love to do in life consulting. Is a lot of times people have a vision of what they'd like to do, and an alchemist is bringing together all the elements and helping them with the vision. So I like that word. And then, I love to come up with ideas and solutions, and I'm the chief creator for my company right now. And it was kind of a good slide from doing sports medicine for over 40 years. I was very much involved in Olympic athletes, helping them, and college athletes, helping them return to their sports and at a higher level than they got injured. And so I always did in that particular profession, asked a lot of questions. It was so important to get to the history of the problem, the etiology of the injury. And so when I decided to go into life consulting, it was after I had a major event in my own life. And it was like, well, what would I like to do with the rest of my life? And so it was really cool to expand what I already knew about kind of the human body and the psyche and all the emotions of putting someone back together after they kind of went through a broken period. And so that's how Platinum Life Coaching and Consulting got dreamed up is next level.
Explain, what exactly is that? What does a Master Life Coach do? What is Platinum Life Consulting?
Yeah. Most consulting and coaching, they have a certain little niche. And sometimes people really encourage you to do a niche. I like to come from 8 dimensions of expression so that I'm helping people really create more of a harmony and a balance. So looking at, here's your physical dimension, your occupational, your emotional, intellectual, environmental, your social, which is part of your relationships, and what you do, financial. All of those are part of, and your spiritual dimension, all of them are really super important to having a life of harmony and balance. And so that's the kind of consulting I do, is people will come, usually they're neglecting one dimension more than another.
Or more, right?
Yeah. And there's reasons why we do that, or there might be seasons in life. But one of the things, too, is I don't really like people to feel guilty that they're not paying attention to them because life events happen. So sometimes a dimension gets to be kind of less of an investment by your life at the time, and you want to put more effort into another one. Like when you and I are starting a new business, we're going to put a little bit more emphasis into our financial dimension and our occupational dimension and put effort into
Some of it's
that.
just kind of the journey of life, right?
Right,
There's
exactly.
periods of life where you focus heavier on, in some cases it's on what's on fire.
Exactly.
Right? Focusing where you have to.
Yeah. And sometimes we put too much into our occupational dimension and then don't take care of ourselves in spirit, mind, and body. So just helping people do that. And so one of the things that you and I have talked about is like, well, how would you even describe your life consulting? And so we came up with the word whole. And I think I'm really, truly a whole life consultant. Yeah. Taking care of the whole big picture.
Well, those are all very important aspects, right? And if you get, I kind of think of those, and when you say 8 elements or whatever you called it, it's kind of like if you think about a wheel.
Yep.
If any of those aren't, if you have a wheel and it's got 8 points on it, and 2 of them are much shorter, it's not going to roll right. Right.
Not so much. It'll feel out of alignment.
It's going to be out of alignment.
It's like driving down the highway and it's like, oh, my steering wheel's starting to shake. And
it's interesting. I do some exercises often where I will go through and I kind of have a little grading scale of various aspects of my life, of how am I doing with my health goals right now? Am I on, what's my goal and am I on target? Yeah. My financial goals, how am I doing? Am I on target? My relationship goals, how am I doing? Am I on target? And trying to grade all those. And occasionally I'll find, as I do that, I'll occasionally find, okay, hey, this may have been a 10 last time I scored it, but right now it's only a 6. So I need to spend some time focusing on that. And sometimes that happens because you are focusing on something else, right?
Right.
Hey, I'm focusing heavily on my occupation, on building my company, on my work, and something may have kind of fallen off during that period. So how do you try to balance that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'd like to use almost a different word than balance. So have yourself and our audience today think a little bit about composing a symphony. And I love music. And you think about when you are listening to a symphony and a piece and an orchestra, not all the instruments are playing at once, right?
Right.
Sometimes the brass section has got its emphasis. Sometimes the string section comes in. Sometimes it's the percussion section that comes in. And so sometimes in order for the harmony of life to happen, we're not going to be playing all points at a level 10. I think that actually adds more stress to us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a myth that we should be having this level 10 life in every single one of those dimensions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I really, that's one area that I think that I'm a little bit different than other consultants and coaches. It's not about having a level 10 life all the time.
Yeah.
Same thing with an athlete. They may be stronger in other areas. For example, you can get an athlete that is extremely gifted in a vertical jump, like let's say a basketball player, but he's not very, or she's not very flexible. And you're not going to change that a whole lot. It depends on the body that you get as you come into this earth realm. Mm-hmm. And so you got to know where you're going to put the emphasis and where you're not. And I think that's one of the things that I help people the most with, is to have that clarity and to also be okay. All right, it's okay that that's not a level 10 and that it may not be. Maybe it's just an 8, and that 8 is absolutely great.
Striving for perfection, especially if you're trying to strive for perfection in every aspect of your life, is an incredibly difficult mm-hmm. task.
Yeah.
I would say unattainable.
Yes. Yeah. And it creates emotions, I think, of guilt and shame, which is ridiculous. We don't need those. We're doing the best we can with what we have, with where we're at, and for us to play in those kind of emotions on a regular basis just beats us down. Yeah.
I'm the thing that pops into my head as we're talking about this is obviously when you're having these conversations, it's hard not to correlate these things into things in your own life, and I'll mention that, like, so here at Peaks Financial, the way we manage money, we have some very sophisticated ways we manage money, but even with this level of sophistication that we use, mm-hmm. we're never perfect, right? And it's impossible to be perfect in what we do in the markets. It's just impossible to actually nail everything just perfectly.
Yeah.
So what I tell people all the time is, we're never going to be perfect. What we're trying to do is we're trying to be mostly right most of the time. Never going to be 100% right all the time. Yeah. We're going to be mostly right most of the time. And if you're mostly right most of the time, mm-hmm. wonderful things can happen.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be perfect.
No. And, perfection can be defined in different ways, too. It can come back to that. Is your life feel alive to you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it is really your assessment on it. Sometimes when we look just at a mark or a goal, that can kind of be empty sometimes. And you're just, checking things off and not really diving into how does it really make me feel, and what kind of experiences do I want to have in life? And maybe it's not necessarily even attached to that goal. So that's a lot of times people will come to me and they'll have goals. They'll have things that they want to reach for. And sometimes they're actually programming from somebody else or the environment. And I've had many clients come to me and they have goals and a vision, and we get moving on it. And pretty soon it's like, I don't think I even really want that. Where did that come from?
Right.
And maybe it was from
almost a false goal.
Yeah.
Or somewhere along the way, either they convinced themselves or perhaps somebody else's influence ended up creating a vision that they felt was theirs, but maybe wasn't.
Exactly. And there's a lot of social programming that comes into us, and really we're looking at what did your soul come here to experience? That's where I like the spiritual dimension. I think it's foundational. Whatever you are believing, there's something invisible breathing us, whether it's infinite intelligence, God, source, something. And you came here to this earth to experience emotions. That's why we live on an earth that has duality, that dark, light, negative, positive. They're not bad. A battery doesn't work unless it has the positive and negative, right? And the charge. And so you're just looking at what is it that I really truly came here to learn. And I think that's one of the things I really love to work with people, is dive deep like that.
And speaking of working with people, who are the people that you work with? What kind of, who comes to you? What's kind of your typical person who seeks out Beth Wolfe?
Usually small business owners in Kitsap County. There's sometimes also mid-level managers. There's people that most of the time they're in transition. They're either in a transition of their personal life or they're in a transition of their entrepreneurial life.
Gotcha.
And they're moving from, this is what my identity looks like now, and this is what I'd like to experience. So I really actually help them shape that experience rather than just, what are the goals in there? It's like, well, if you were already experiencing that life, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Who are you talking to? Where are you going? How do you dress? Where are you hanging out? And it's like making a painting. You got this blank canvas and you start just painting it. Because so often people know what they don't want very quickly. Like, tell me the crap in your life. Oh, I can tell you that. But when you ask them what they truly want to feel and experience apart from a task list, then that gets a little bit challenging, and that's where I really love to help people. So people that have gone through divorces, like myself, that was probably one of the biggest shifts in my life. I completed a 25-year marriage, and my kids were pretty much grown, and it's like, well, now what would I love to do in life? What's my next chapter? So those are people that I love to work with. Entrepreneurs, small business, mid-level managers, but mostly the common thread is they want to dive deep and they've got a vision and they want to experience more of life.
Is it mostly when they're in some type of a transition, or could it not necessarily?
Most of the time it is, because not everybody seeks out life consulting and coaching unless they're having a little bit of a wobble or they want to move to another level. They're finding something just is uncomfortable. Right. Let's go back to Olympic level athletes. They're going to seek out the best of the best, whether you're weightlifting, you're a massage therapist, you're a conditioning coach. They're going to seek out their gold medal team in order to be standing on that gold medal platform. But what is the experience that they want to feel when they're standing on that gold medal platform? Could be different for everybody. But that's usually what people are seeking, is they're like, I want to change something. I'm tired of this. Usually people that are experiencing high levels of discontent and longing, those are two huge signals for growth that people will come to me. They're like, I really would love to experience this, that longing, discontent. I'm tired of that. So they'll show up on my
what about when do you get people who are just looking for, hey, I'm actually performing at a good level. Things are actually really good. Relationship's good, business is good, everything's good, but I still want to next level it.
Absolutely. In fact, one of my greatest examples is a financial planner like yourself. There was one in Gig Harbor, and that is exactly the scenario he was. He was 20 plus years in his career, doing great family, great relationships, great health, everything. And he just goes, I want to give a wow experience to my clients at another level. And I've got this big long list of things that I want to provide as an experience for my clients, and I'm not doing it. And I go, okay, well, let's look at it. And pretty much what shifted is he had a lot of information in his head that he wanted to provide for his clients, but he had no other person than himself to actually provide that for his clients. And then another aspect, he had the wrong employees. He had the wrong person. And so we started working on an avatar of employees that would really help him in the specific license and certifications that he would like to have on his team. And it was pretty cool because we had written it down, we'd been working on it in our sessions, and then this is how it happens as you start vibing at that frequency and putting it out there into the universe. A lady from California emailed them, said, hey, I'm moving to Washington. I have this certification, this license, and I'd really like to be part of your financial planning firm there. And she was everything that was on that avatar that we wrote, plus more. So he hired her, but then he had a little bit of a problem. He had an existing employee that he didn't really know what to do with. He was like, I don't really want to fire her. And so I really help people with the shift in their perspective. And I said, well, what if you are really stopping her from enjoying a job that really gives her life?
Yeah.
And you guys are both staying stuck with each other because you think you might hurt each other. And so they had that kind of tough conversation, but it ended up ending really well. She got a job at a bank, absolutely loves it.
That's
and
great.
It was a win-win.
Yeah,
it was a win-win.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love win-wins.
Yeah. It was a win-win for everybody.
We were talking about that earlier on a different episode we were recording. It's the topic of win-wins. I love win-wins.
Yep.
So
fantastic.
That's super cool. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about what you do?
That's a beautiful question and a little bit misconception. You know,
What do people get wrong? Like when they hear about you and they go, "Oh, I understand what Beth does."
they think I'm just a mindset coach.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, you just work with the mind. You just work with, helping me calibrate my thoughts. And no, much, much more than that. And, we're talking about 8 dimensions of expression. So I'm a whole life. I have so much to offer. And I have a team that's going to help me. I don't know everything about finances, but I have a team that can help that person.
Sure.
I may not know everything about the environment, but I'll have a team that can help you. But very much know about spirituality and physical. So I have a huge background in nutrition and all kinds of sports rehab. So when they just say, "Oh, you're just a mindset coach," I'm like, no, not really. Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception.
So, all right, so we're going to shift. So we've talked about family, we've talked about occupation. We're going to shift to recreation now. So when you're not helping people, and not entrepreneuring, what is it you're doing for fun?
Yeah, I love the outdoors. That's probably one of my favorite things. I love to kayak, paddleboard. I grew up on the water in Kitsap County, so windsurfed all the time. I have a ski boat. Love to be out on the water. Love to go hiking. I have a mountain bike. I love to mountain bike. So outdoors.
That sounds like Kitsap County.
Yeah.
Paddleboards, kayaks, bicycling, hiking, mountain biking. That is Kitsap County, right?
Yeah, and then probably reading. I love to read. I just
Have you noticed? I noticed something here. I just moved to Kitsap in 2016. I've lived in various parts of the country, and something I notice here is there's not a lot of heavy people, right? I mean, people around here are generally pretty healthy because it's because of all this stuff, right? Now, I mean, I know I can drop a few pounds, right?
Same, right there with you, brother. Right there with you.
You see a lot of. You go to certain parts of the country, and you'll see lots of significant amounts of very large people.
Yeah.
Unhealthily large people.
Right. We could have a whole nother podcast about that. I have all kinds of thoughts about that.
But I've noticed that around here is it's like, hey, it's just like people are healthier, and I think it's because we live in a place that has all this wonderful outdoor stuff to go do.
Yeah, exactly.
And we also have a climate that is, even though it does get a little damp around here, that it does. We have a climate that is encouraging to go outside in.
Exactly. You can
there
still
are parts of the country that in the winter it's too cold and in the summer it's too hot.
Yep.
To really be outside much.
Yeah. My wife just moved from Arizona and she lived there for 22 years and she goes, you don't realize that at 6 months out of the year, if not more, it's over 100 degrees in Arizona and you can't really be outside a lot.
When I'm originally from Texas, and when my kids were little, they used to call summer jail.
Oh,
because they would get out of school.
Yeah.
They're excited to be out of school, but it is so hot outside that you can't, unless you're going and hanging out in a swimming pool, in the shade in a swimming pool.
Wow.
So not just in a swimming pool, but you need to be in the shade in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
That it's just realistically too hot to go outside for a lot of the year, for a lot of the summer.
Yeah.
They actually started referring to it as summer jail, which is one of the times that we did. That's when we kind of went, okay, maybe it's time to relocate
To move.
to the Northwest to get out of the heat.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing there. So let's talk about money real quick. So as far as money, who or what has had the biggest financial influences on your financial life?
I like money.
Well, don't we all?
I do.
I know very
think,
few people who don't like money.
I know.
There are some out there.
There are, but I think money, and I know that
I
wasn't
know most of
directly...
my clients are big fans.
Yeah, that wasn't directly your question, but money does really beautiful things in our lives and for our lives, and it's cool. I think it's important that we say that we like money. Sometimes there's a belief out there that money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Getting it out of harmony and out of balance where it's greed.
Yeah.
Okay, not so great. Or you're all the way in, I'm not a good person unless I'm in poverty. Those two extremes I don't think are the healthiest. But as far as who influenced me the most about my money habits, it would be my grandmother and my parents. My parents did very well. They had a high school education. They built multi-million-dollar businesses here in Kitsap County. Worked a little too much. I'm getting rid of that habit in my life of working too much. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun. And so my mom was the bookkeeper, so I learned bookkeeping very young, like in junior high. In high school, I was doing bookkeeping with my mom and for the businesses. And I was just always taught that, you can have a little bit of savings, so for just in case with emergencies, but you want to be investing. You want to have a portfolio that is diversified, and my parents owned a lot of real estate, so I kind of grew up with that. They weren't so much into stocks and mutual funds and EFTs like that. I think that kind of scared them. But in general, that was probably my greatest influence was my parents. And I've tended to take some of the ideas that work really well for me, and then other ideas that I'm like, that was theirs, not mine.
Right. Well, times change too.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
My grandparents made a ton of money in CDs back when you could they were making like 13% on CDs.
Wow. Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah.
And of course, to them, they made that money back, and then interest rates came down, and they made a lot of money. Now these days, but if you follow, their investing advice, it would be invest in CDs. Well, if you've done that for the last decade or so, it would not have worked well for you.
Yeah, not so much.
So times change, and we have to change with them, and we see that a lot in the financial world. Is a lot of people out there are still using grandma and grandpa's ideas when it comes to investing, and they're using theories that were developed in the 1950s today, and it's quite prevalent. We'll still see that a lot. And it's one of those things where you kind of need to update your mindset, because that was a great example. The CDs is a great example.
Yeah.
My parents made a lot of money, or my grandparents made a lot of money in CDs. Hasn't been possible in decades.
Yeah, that's what was so different about my
Grandpa,
parents.
if he was still here, he would tell me to invest in CDs.
CDs, yeah. My parents were like, invest in real estate.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit challenging right now.
Right now, it's a little tough. Yeah.
Right now, it's a little tough. When they started, it wasn't so tough.
Do you remember what your first investment was, and when you did that?
Ooh.
Like, do you remember what it actually was? Was did you buy a stock, or was it just, hey, I've got a job and I'm going to start investing in a 401k, or do you even remember? Some people just don't even remember.
I did do that when I was young. I started investing in a 401k. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it was just whatever they offered.
Yeah, when I worked at a sports med clinic, it was a 401k. Yeah.
So when we talk about part of the financial topic for people is often retirement, and I ask this question a lot on the podcast is when it comes to retirement, some people have kind of what I see here when people come in is three different things. People are already retired. some people have a date in mind. Literally, some people have like a countdown timer, or they've got it carved in their desk.
Yeah.
I have, I've got 1 year, 10 months, 8 days, 7 hours, and
I've heard
15
those.
minutes,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And then there's others who are kind of like, yeah, I'll retire someday. I mean, to me personally, and I'll give you a little backstory. And like for me personally, I have a target in mind to be able to make sure I can retire, that I can retire, that at X age I have all the resources I need to retire if I choose to.
Yeah.
I probably won't, because I'd go stir crazy in a matter of weeks, and my wife would probably kill me.
Yeah.
I'm going to give her 30, 45 days, and she'd whack me.
Right. Get out of the house, dude.
Yeah. I don't sit well now. I can't imagine, to me, the idea of being retired, I'm not sure what I would do with myself, other than annoy my wife.
Yeah.
So, so I personally don't have any, to me, retirement is not an aspiration. Part of that, though, too, is I've very consciously been building a life that I feel like I don't need to retire from, or one that I don't necessarily even need to vacation from. So where are you on that? Like, what's kind of what do you see for your next horizon of, do you go, yeah, I want to punch out at whatever age, or are you kind of like, no, I'm kind of digging what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can until somebody tells me I can't do it anymore.
I'm digging what I'm doing.
Right?
Yeah, and I just turned 60 last year, and I feel like I'm just starting to maybe know a little bit about life. Like, there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn. So if I'm on this earth for another 20, 30 years, and I can continue to help people in their own life and their own life transitions and what they want to up-level, and they're open to hearing that with me and from me and pay me for it, I don't see myself really retiring.
Why would you stop, right?
Why? Why not? I mean, I think that's some of the things that is not really appreciated very well in the United States of America. I don't know about other countries because I grew up here, is we don't really honor and respect the wisdom of people that have been in this life a little longer than we have. And I understand when we're younger, when I was in my 20s and going to university, that you learn something new and you think, oh, I know so much. And we have a little bit of ideology as well as a bit of arrogance.
Right.
I would love for the wisdom of people that have been here longer to be greater recognized and appreciated. I loved hanging out with my grandma when I was younger and just talking with her. So as long as I'm still learning and have all my faculties, I don't foresee myself retiring really anytime soon. I mean, some of the people like Louise Hay, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's in the self-development area.
No.
She didn't really start her career in the self-development until she was 70.
Wow.
And really became incredibly more popular into the 80s and 90s. So she didn't really even ramp up until she hit 70. Yeah.
It's funny, as you were talking about, that you're 60 and you're feeling kind of like you're on top of your game, right? We were having this conversation on one of the other podcast episodes we were recording recently. It was the same kind of conversation. It seems to be a theme amongst some of us entrepreneurs of like, I feel the same way. It's like I've spent my whole career mastering what I do, and I just get better and better and better, and never stop learning.
Right.
And it's like, why would I stop? If you've spent your whole life getting this good at something, why would you stop doing it?
Right when you have really become kind of
the master, right?
Or just beginning the mastery of it, where you just like, oh, I could actually serve and help other people. There's almost like levels of life that you, as we're younger, we're in a level of survival, and then we move into a level of service. And I feel like maybe you and I are in that level of service, and then we're in this level of surrendership. And I just don't want to miss out on, what did my soul come here to learn? What is it here to share and serve and help with humanity and be an asset to humanity, and especially in the Kitsap area.
I feel that same way. As it's like, I make what we do here at Peaks Financial makes a significant difference in the lives of many, many people.
Absolutely.
And that's an important role. That's an
is.
important thing to do for people. And it's the same in your world. And many of the people that we've had on the podcast, it's the things that we do are important.
Yeah.
And they bring value to people. And in some cases, it's some of the most significant impacts to various aspects of their lives.
Yeah. And money's cool. So.
And money's cool.
Money is cool.
Gotta love money.
I think it's cool.
I'm a big fan.
I think
it's financial.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of money. I like money.
Imagine.
I like the things that money can do. I like helping my clients manage money and all the things that it goes with. And it's there's a lot of cool things you can do.
Exactly. That's an emotion that we love. It feels good. It's cool. I have a client that's like, I love to do cool things with cool people in cool places.
Yeah.
Like, that's his vision. I'm like, I like that one.
Yeah. So, okay, I've got 2 more questions for you, and then we're pretty much at the end of another podcast. But so, what is best kept secret in Kitsap County? What is a place, a restaurant, a bar, a music scene, a hike, a waterfall, a whatever it is that pops in your mind? If this is something really cool that I bet not a lot of people have heard about.
Well, I love to go on hikes. I love to be in forests. They probably have heard of it, but it's an incredible hike on Bainbridge Island. It's called the Grand Forest. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've been there.
But it's probably not a best kept secret, but sometimes when we're not doing well in life, the best place to be is to go out into the forest and be with the trees and just let your body calibrate. There's so much into grounding and being in that atmosphere, but I think that's one of my best kept secrets is get out into nature. So
yeah, and the Grand Forest is a beautiful place.
It is to look at some of those trees that have been there for a long time and just reach out and touch them. And
some of those are enormous.
I
actually have a picture of my kids, and I think me, standing inside of one, on one that what's left of one anyways. And it was that was in the Grand Forest.
Let's see, one of my other ones is if you love to kayak, go out to Seabeck. They have a little boat launch out there next to one of the state parks out there, and just go kayak out there, and you're at the foothills of the Olympic Mountains, and it is gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
And I know a great spot right there to catch crabs that I'm not going to say on the podcast.
Okay. Yeah, don't share.
Yeah.
Don't share.
Dungeness crabs out there.
Yeah.
Hood Canal.
Yeah.
Right off of Seabeck, or not too far from Seabeck. But somebody told it to me in confidence, and but I have verified that they are there.
Okay.
But so I can't.
I'll just let you go get them for me.
Right.
And I'll come over to your house and eat it.
Yeah. So it is almost crab season in the Puget Sound area. So, Beth, last question: where can people find you?
BethWolfe.com. Pretty easy.
And that's Wolf with an E. WOLFE.
Yeah, and
BethWolfe.com.
All kinds of fun things on there. I did a podcast.
Your website is actually quite exceptional. I was on your website, and it is an excellent website.
Thank you.
There's a lot of content on there.
And it's in process of having even more, because part of my vision and my dream is to have Platinum Life University, which is DIY courses in all those 8 dimensions.
Awesome.
So if you want to get your feet wet, you want to just do things on your own, that is getting ready to be launched very soon. I'm working with my website designer as we speak. I kind of got a rendition of it just yesterday, and there'll be more going on there. Because sometimes people just like to get their feet a little wet before they dive into consulting, and it's at a different investment level too. So, and there's lots of podcasts.
I was going to say there's a ton of free resources on there as well.
There
I mean,
is.
right now you have a significant amount of free resources on your website, which are very cool. So go check her out at BethWolfe.com. That's WOLFE. BethWolfe.com. Beth, thanks a lot for being on the show. Really appreciated you being here. It's been a lot of fun. And that's a wrap for another episode of the Kitsap Matters podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next show. A brief disclosure. This is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation.